Okay, so pardon me. Yeah, so there's this AI art craze, I guess you could say, going on. Um, Honestly, I mean, I don't. I have an opinion on it, but if you're expecting someone to skewer this new phenomenon, which it is a phenomenon, there's no understating that there is a significant amount of discussion going on about AI art um, as of the past year or so. From a little bit of research I've done, it seems like it's been around for quite a bit. It just hasn't really taken off the way that it has as of recently. And if you think I'm just going to sit here and skewer AI art or tell you why you should get on board with it, I'm not taking sides on the issue. Um, I don't want to pit one group of thinkers against another because that is not at all my interest. Nor do I think it should be the interest of many other creators. I think the interest of creators should really lie in creating. Now, whatever that means is entirely up to the creator. As far as the ethical part of AI art creation, that gets a little more complicated because while it's been around for a little bit, while it's been in development for a little bit, it's really started to take off more and more within as long as I've been paying attention, at least the past year. Now, I've used some AI art generators. I've used Nightlife and a few others that I can't remember off the top of my head. I just did Google search for AI art generator, and I may have downloaded one or two apps on my phone that I can't remember because there's just so many of them. There's stuff that wants you to pay, and I mean, I'm an artist. I don't need AI. I can create my own art. um, but I wanted to see what it was all about before I start writing it off. Um, Trying to think of the best way to describe it, but but basically, arranging elements to form a an end product design, if you will, has been a practice for many many years. AR art creation is sort of the result of drag and drop utilities such as Go Animate and other programs like it that were made years and years ago. The PC game, The Movies, where you can make your own movies using um, digital actors and an array of pre-made sets. This is one of the next steps of that. The same is true of the business of art, which would be NFTs and the like. Now, personally, I I have tried to mint some NFTs, just trying to see how that works. And had I gotten to it a little bit sooner, maybe I would have sold at least one of them. But because I was in the same traffic to get NFTs minted as everyone and their mother. The price of gas just skyrocketed. That and also certain laws were passed that prohibited me from buying the cryptocurrency I needed to complete the transaction of minting my NFTs, so that I, could at least have some hope that all this time that I spent trying to get this to work, wasn't for nothing. And so I decided, I'm gonna wait. Maybe if I'm that desperate, I'll go to my congressman. But quite honestly, at the end of the day, my mission operative, or MO, if you will, is to create art. Now we get into the AI craze, um, and the controversy that surrounds it. The one of the common consensuses is that AI is not real art. AI art is going to put artists out of work. AI is inherently evil. AI is essentially in in a very specific way art theft. These are words and phrases I'm hearing from people who will remain nameless. I don't want anyone getting harassed over this. This is not that's not the right way. This is not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is that those those concerns are valid. I think it's very reasonable to worry about your livelihood, because if you're an artist, how do you make money? By making art and then selling it. With regards to whether or not AI art is ethical or legal, I think that's something that has to be looked at. But I think it's something that has to be looked at from very broad, from a very broad legal perspective. You can't just let yourself get caught up in this whole, like, do I do it, do I not do it? I mean, I think you really got to use your judgment. If you don't feel like creating AI art, like through text prompts, is something you're comfortable with, then don't do it. If you think there's something to be learned from it, using it more as a teaching tool than anything else, then I think that's worth considering. My intention for using AI art, when I, you know, tried figuring out what it was for that purpose. And one of my very close friends was doing it for the same reason. But he was also looking at it from a conceptual point of view. He would end up tweaking whatever it was that he created so that it is 100% his and not something that's mined from samples of perhaps someone else's work or photos. I think there is a certain responsibility that needs to be taken into account for the people that are using this for profit. I think if it were up to me, if I were in a position to pass laws about the legalities of the use of AI art, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm an artist, But from an ethical standpoint, I mean, the ethics, that's up to the users. It's up to the government to enforce that if they think they need to, which I think that's kind of what we're moving towards. It's not going to be an easy 1, 2, 3 kind of thing, because this is this involves the internet, and the internet makes everything complicated. But I guess what I'm really getting at is I don't use AI art to um, as my primary source of creating art. I'm not going to tell. I'm not about to give anyone advice on whether or not you should try it out or see what you can do with it. I mean, that is entirely up to you. Don't let my opinion try to sway you, because it's really a decision that you have to make if you want to use it. I think using it as a teaching tool is worth doing. I'm still going to explore its possibilities, maybe from a conceptual point of view, but I am 100% positive that none of the art that you see coming out of me will be in any way, shape, or form a an AI generated image, at least for the time being, until the legalities of it are sorted out. Because the last thing that I want to do is steal someone else's work. And about that, I think art theft is reprehensible. I think every artist has stolen art at one time or another, and I'm not going to confirm or deny um, anything about anybody. But if you pass someone's work off as your own and you don't give them credit, that's not good. That's not cool. Especially when you're profiting on it or trying to profit on it. Yeah, that sucks. If you are using stock imagery and you give credit and you pay for it, or if you're not asked to pay for it, you're just asked to give credit, well, then I think you know what the right thing to do is. Every issue of LuckyZilla gives credit to whatever art is not created by us. And if it has been created by someone than us and we forgot to credit them in the past, we are crediting them now, because it's better late than never. But also, at the same time, there is room for reconsideration about this whole AI thing. I wanted to wait to really voice my opinions on this subject. Now I think I have a pretty good idea about how I feel about it. And if there's anything I really want you to take away from this, we had almost 14 minutes from this little soapbox speech. It's don't steal art. Don't get into this whole thing about whether or not it's ethical. If you don't feel it's ethical, don't use it. If you can use AI art ethically, perhaps as a teaching tool, and if you are going to approach it from a commercial standpoint, do your research on the pieces that are generated, where the art was sourced from. Like, you download the image, you throw it into Google Images as a search, and see what comes up. And if you're lucky enough to find the artist who created whatever original piece or pieces the art was generated from, I would seek their permission. And one of the reasons I bring this up is AI art, in a way, from the perspective I'm coming from, seems like a another form of collaging. And I know a handful of mixed media artists that that do some pretty incredible work. And if AI art can, in some legal terminology, be determined as collaging, that it should be explored a little bit further to determine what constitutes this versus that. What constitutes collaging as opposed to art theft. Like there I imagine is kind of a fine line between the two, but that's up to lawyers to decide, and any contributing bodies that are concerned about this even more than I am. And the last thing is, I mean, you've heard my opinions. I'm still kind of neutral about this whole thing. I'm just observing mostly, because at the end of the day, my job is to create. For those of you who are concerned about this and find AI art to be inherently evil, to be unethical, I encourage you to continue to be concerned, to maybe even get in touch with the authors of this code, and give them your 2 cents on the subject, and see if maybe you can get involved, if there's a way for you to get involved, so that this software, mines less and less for the purposes of stealing art, and more. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I think it can be great as a teaching tool. I think it can be great for creating stories, comics, all that, from a conceptual point of view. But if you're using this actively for commercial purposes, I encourage you to use it ethically. Because the last thing you want is to have restrictions put in place. I mean, there's plenty of restrictions now on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, because some people just abused the system and their privileges, and they used the platforms unethically. And that being said, I, as of this moment, am withdrawing from creating NFTs. And as I mentioned earlier, but in a ridiculous run-on sentence, I am not going to be publishing any AI art samples that I create. Any AI samples that I do create on whatever sites there are, be it Nightlife or Reasonable Equivalents, are going to be for my own personal use and not for professional use. And if you happen to see something that's put out with my name on it, then that's not me. Also, I do not give consent to have my art sampled, and I will be exploring whatever legalities I can. I don't want this to sound like a threat, because it's absolutely not the case. I just want everyone to know that that I'm paying attention, and I don't want to see my art resampled. And if you do happen to generate a piece that looks similar to mine. Just really use your judgment before you market it and sell it. Think about what I'm not putting on the table when you do that, and think of other people whose incomes you might be compromising by doing the same thing. I am done with NFTs. I am done with cryptocurrency. And AI art, I'm going to continue to keep an eye on it. But for the moment, I just don't really feel comfortable with my art being used in NFTs, and that includes commissions. So if you are looking to commission me for something that you're going to use as an NFT, if you commissioned me prior to this video, you're fine. The terms we discussed are the terms that still are. But for right now, I'm happy to draw commissions. Just understand I'm really not interested in this NFT thing. And more importantly, I don't want to see my work sampled. That's just not right. If you're doing it for educational purposes, fine. There's no way I can know about it. But if you're sharing it, if you're selling it, and I don't get any kind of compensation for it, then that's not cool. And the same goes for other people. Like I was working at a print shop a few years ago, and there was someone that was passing off Dan Parent's work as his own. And I called him out on it, and he's like, "Well, occasionally for the gist of what he said was he would trace over certain figures, but he would go in and make it look like it was his own original stuff, and he would put in as much of his own as whatever." And I could see through him very easily, just dancing around the issue. And I didn't throw him out of the store, but I was just like, "Yeah, I'll get your quote on this." And I never heard from the guy again. Because Dan did a cover for Lucky Zilla #9. And there was no way that I was going to let someone get away with, trying to pass someone's work off as their own. I wasn't going to get in his face. I wasn't going to start a fight. I was just going to be like, "Look, dude, come on. This is art theft." This is art theft. Through and through. Like, come on. Seriously. That's messed up. So I've rambled on for almost a half hour. I hope that this answers any questions that people might be having for me about what I think about this whole AI art thing. And the long answer you've heard, and the short answer is I still am not quite sure what to think of it as a whole, but what I think of it now, like in the shortest answer, is I'm still learning about it. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I think it's a tool, and it's fine if used ethically, but if it's used for profit without regard for artists whose work is sourced, then that's not okay. I think it's a very open-ended thing right now. So the short answer is I'm not for or against. I'm still observing. I think this is going to be an ongoing thing where maybe I'll lean more towards, I don't think I want to use it. And occasionally I might lean towards, let's see what's here. Because if I were to just dismiss it outright, then at a certain point, when it is maybe time for me to explore, I'm like, I'm not even going to know what I'm talking about. I feel like now I do know what I'm talking about enough to give this near half hour sputtering about what I think, and really not sure what else to say without continuing to ramble. So I am going to say, if you're using this, use it ethically. And that's all.